Punching Up, a Nintendo podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Punching Up, your bi-weekly Nintendo podcast from Last Stand Media. I'm your host, Dustin. Here with me, I have Micah Moriarty. Hello. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you, Dustin. I had eggs and toast this morning, as I do almost every day. It's the best way to start your day. You know, I feel invigorated.
I feel like with breakfast, I either am waking up and I'm so hungry, I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Or the thought of eating is repulsive, and it's nothing in between. Like today, I was like, no way, I'm not eating anything. But is breakfast the most important meal of the day for real? I feel like this is some pseudoscience bullshit going on.
For me, it definitely is. If I leave the house without eating
certain
anything,
people,
I feel like I'm going to faint. Even on those days when I wake up and I don't really want to eat, I have to eat something within that first hour of being awake, or else I get all shaky. Like even if I don't want to eat, I get shaky. I feel like a little hummingbird that's hasn't had sugar in a while. So it definitely is in my life the most important meal of the day. Like if I don't have breakfast, we're off to a very bad start. Yeah,
I could see that for certain people, it being more important than others, but yeah, I don't know. It's I'm trying to think of the last time I ate breakfast a lot in New York. Let me tell you, I was eating constantly there. But before we get into more breakfast talk, I want to introduce Gene Park, your boy. What's up, man?
I'm like you, Dustin. I'm also the same, where I'm just either really, really starving in the morning, or I could I'm totally fine. But I do think that every time I've had breakfast, it's always been a better day. So, that's always happened. So that's something I consider when you ask the question whether it is pseudoscience. I think it is. It might be. So, I think it's not. But yeah,
because now the big thing in the health and dieting world is intermittent fasting, which is like you stop eating at 7 or 8, you don't eat again until lunch. And it's funny because when I started doing dieting stuff, I was like, well, I kind of semi do that, other than sometimes I would eat something at 10 or 11 p.m. like a moron, and then immediately get heartburn and be like, why do I do this to myself? So it's just like the slight adjustment of not eating late, but nothing till lunch, just have multiple coffees, minor anxiety attack in the morning. It's worth the trade-off to me, but I don't know. So as I said, this is Punching Up, but guys, we have an elephant. Well, I guess the lack of an elephant in the room to address, and that is Dagan. So some of you may have heard this already, but some of you haven't. So let's go through what's going on here. So as you guys know, Dagan, very, very important part of our team at Last Stand, but makes it sound like I'm negating it. I'm just laying out the facts. Dagan has another...
But he's kind of an asshole, so...
Yeah, he kind of sucks. Dagan has a real big boy job, like Gene does, working as an animator. And so throughout the course of Punching Up, he's mainly been working from home. He does a lot of freelance stuff. And so just recently, he took on a new job that requires him to be in an office 4 days a week. So with that, responsibility calls for him. And so he can no longer appear on Punching Up, since we normally record Tuesdays, and his only real recording days now are Fridays and Saturdays. So the good news is, if you're a Last Stand listener across our entire network, Dagan is not going anywhere in terms of knockback. Constellation, he's still going to be there. Don't worry about that. But the sad news is Dagan no longer able to be with us on Punching Up, and he's graduating from Nintendo, I guess, just like Colin. He said, "Fuck the Switch, fuck Miyamoto. I'm out. He's done. No, he didn't say that. But I went on, of course, every week. I go on patreon.com/laststandmedia where I put up a question thread, usually on Sundays or Mondays, where you can write into the show. And I specifically said I wanted some write-ins about our boy Dagan to send him up because I know he's listening right now. So let's start out with Jose Vera, who says, punching up crew, extremely saddened by the news that we have lost a member of the team. That makes him sound like he died.
Yeah, he's definitely not dead.
He's not dead. He's still around. And we'll see. I mean, the thing is that I think that at some point we can fit him in on certain episodes if we can make things happen. So it's not like he's gone forever. But anyway, the writing continues. Dagan's insight and quirky games made the show a delight. Hopefully he will return someday to the Mushroom Kingdom. Much love to everyone on Punching Up. Keep punching those blocks, JV. And then I got two more. I'm going to read these back to back as well. And then we can kind of discuss the future as a crew here. So Jack Finning writes in, it says, greeting Brickfisters. I wish all the best for Dagan. He will be dearly missed. Punching Up has become one of my favorite of the Last Stand shows, and the chemistry between the four of you is a big part of that. I'm happy that Dagan found a new job and is still involved in LSM, but Punching Up will never be the same. Thank you, Dagan. But now that the sappy goodbyes are out of the way, how do you guys foresee his seat will be used? A new co-host? Cycling through guests? Or should his seat remain untouched by those unworthy? Thank you and keep up the awesome work. And then Meatball also wrote in and said, hey, gang, now that Dagan is dead, you all go around and say what you hate most about him. Who wants to go first? I kid. But I'll be honest, Punching Up is the show I watch least on the LSM network. That being said, I'm excited to see how/if any changes will be made to the show with only 3 hosts now. Do you plan to bring guests on similar to Summon Sign, or you move forward as the Triforce of Dustin, Micah, and Gene? How do the 3 of you want the show to evolve moving forward? Cheers from AZ Arizona. Peace. So yeah, thanks guys for those write-ins. But I'll say one last thing, and I'll throw it over to you guys, is that the plan right now is that Punching Up will continue, of course. But I didn't want to immediately fill Dagan's seat. And I actually see this as a interesting opportunity that as, let's see, it was Jack who mentioned, was it Jack or Meatball? One of the two. The idea of bringing on different guests and either people within the Last Stand, roster of hosts, or even outside of it, just because when we had 4 people, obviously that's a ton of fun and totally different from the rest of Last Stand shows. It didn't leave much room to bring on anybody else. I mean, we've done 5-person shows, but it can be a little hectic and sometimes a bit messy, I guess more messy than our shows normally are. So Dagan right now, his seat will remain untouched, but maybe gently filled here and there. Oh, that sounded, I don't like gently filled. That sounded a little off.
I didn't like that.
So yeah, let's throw those to you guys. Gene, thoughts about Dagan's untimely death and what's next for us?
Well, I mean, technically this is we're kind of going against the trend of industry media news because we lost Dagan because he got a job. He didn't lose his job. He didn't get laid off or anything like that.
Right.
So I'm personally very happy to see someone get employed.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, so yeah, it's just nice. I'm just so glad for Dagan because I know he was worrying about that for a while, like personally, so
yeah, absolutely. He I know a lot of you guys already know this, but he is just so extremely talented, and it's honestly annoying that he's so gifted at both being a podcaster and being an animator. It doesn't feel fair that should be dual talented like that. But so yeah, I agree, man. I'm happy that he's able to do something in that field and continue on. But Micah, any thoughts? Anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I mean, I am, like Gene said, I'm thrilled that Dagan found, a new position. It is, the animation market has changed dramatically these past few years. So I'm very happy that he found a place where he fits right in. But it's a bummer that we're not going to have him around anymore. Especially it's like he's my brother-in-law. So the reality is that I've met Dagan in person very few times. But getting to
Wow.
do the show together, between this and Constellations, I actually get to see Dagan quite a bit. Because before I only would see him literally at Thanksgiving once a year.
He is
So
your brother-in-law. That's that's a tricky way to put it, but yeah.
But so it is. It's like, yeah, it's a bummer, but hopefully he will be able to stop by at some point. I mean, would love to even be able to have him maybe like record a little segment of something like, if we actually get confirmation of the Switch 2, we still want to know what Dagan thinks about it. It would be cool if he could record a little video and we stitch that in or something. But yeah, it's a bummer, but I got to be happy for him as well because the world's changing. And it's tough out there for a lot of animators. So I'm glad he found something, but at the expense of me being sad that he won't be here anymore.
Yeah,
still alive, by the way.
Still alive.
It does sound like he died. It does sound like he died.
I mean, he might be dead now. I haven't touched base with him this morning.
Yeah, that's true.
I keep making that joke between Sacred and this show, and one day it is going to bite me. One day someone's going to be critically injured for real, and I'm being like, "Fuck!" I mean that. For the Last Stand audience, I think that we would all agree that if that happened, it would be funny. It would be the darkest humor we've ever hit, but I guess that's how it goes,
I mean, it was when Colin and I were doing our Q&A that he got a phone call from a family member and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to answer it. That'll be funny." And it literally was them telling us that someone died. Yeah. And he was like, "I wasn't funny at all."
Oh my God, when was this?
Oh, this was Christmas prep. So yeah. It was our whatever we did, our married mailbag or whatever we called it.
That was just a couple months ago. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can laugh at it now. It's fine.
Yeah. So obviously out of respect, we edited that out of the episode. So I'm the only one who's seen the footage and I can see Micah's face like start to get confused and then immediately be like, and to be clear, Colin said it was, I mean, as a family member, obviously it's important, but not someone super close. So it's like sad, but you're not going to like erupt in sadness.
No,
so.
we didn't like break down and like have to stop the episode. I don't mean to sound insensitive. It was literally someone that I had never met, someone that Colin hadn't seen, I think since he was like 10 years old. So, but it was just the completely unexpected of like, oh, this will be funny. Let's answer the phone while we're doing the show. And of course, it was a death announcement. I was expecting it to be something like, "You want me to pick up ice cream for the party?" Like it wasn't that at all.
No, yeah, a little different. Sometimes that things like that happen when you're live. Well, we're not. We always say we're live. We're not really live. We're pre-recorded, but gotta be careful. So, Dagan, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. You were one of the driving forces behind wanting to do this show. And I'm so glad that you push for this just because you guys know from working with us for a bit that we are very adaptable, but sometimes slow to try to do new things because new things is scary and hard. And Dagan always had that drive and ambition that he still has, obviously, that I admire about him. And so the show will go on. It will be different. It'll be missing something always. But like we've been saying, we're so happy for him. And he's not gone forever, of course. We'll be seeing him on Constellation. And who knows, maybe on this show here and there. But make sure you guys leave a comment because I know, like I said, I know Dagan's listening. I know, leave a comment about Dagan. Yeah. Say thank you. Or whatever. Say fuck you. I mean, I can't control what you do. But leave Dagan a comment for him to read. I'm sure he would appreciate that greatly.
It is a bummer that he's also left too, because I did start to feel kind of like kinship towards him, like Colin does. Like recently, we just had our Final Fantasy VII remake spoiler cast, and a lot of people were actually disappointed that Dagan couldn't make it because he couldn't finish it. And as a listener of our own content, I was also disappointed. I was like, damn, I really wanted to hear what Dagan thought about FF7 remake. He probably would have been the most like interesting insight out of all four of us because we like you all know what we all think about FF7 remake, but Dagan would have been new, and it's exciting to as a little brother or little brother-in-law. It's exciting to find out what Dagan might have thought about it. So yeah, it's a bummer, and hopefully we'll get more opportunities with that soon. It's good that he's still not back. So
right. Yeah, Dagan, last year we did too many games together. We did a panel, and we had a nice intimate dinner together where we just not that kind of intimate, but we just went out to dinner, got to be able to talk about the company, talk about our lives and stuff. And it's like you said, Gene, that's like, you get that kinship that it's nice because I feel like we have that now, like pretty much with everybody here. We all have our own interpersonal relationships and stuff. So not having Dagan on the show.
I think I've hung out with you more than anyone else in the company too. So.
Oh yeah. Actually, I was gonna say
you and Ben, yeah.
Live on the show, Gene, Ben and I are going to be coming down to DC. I can't remember when, but we're going to the Near Orchestra concert.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna buy tickets. I still haven't bought them yet, but I will.
Yeah. So we should definitely meet up before, after, whatever.
I want to go to that thing too. Hell yeah!
Dude,
I want to hear Near music live. That's crazy.
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. We have tickets to that, and we're going to the Rebirth concert in Cleveland, but that's not until January next year. But should be pretty cool. So yeah, thank you, Dagan. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon. It's not a goodbye. We'll see you soon.
See you, Space Cowboy.
See you, Space Cowboy. That's right.
And then I'm going to get my recorder and I'll play the Titanic song. So just give me a minute.
Oh, dude. Absolutely. Guys, I want to take an opportunity just because obviously we had Sacred Symbols 300 in New York City. And Colin and Chris and I got to talk about some of the experience on Sacred Symbols, but the thing is, that show, we specifically designed it to have all of us there. And so I want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about New York and how you guys felt about being there and stuff like that. So, Micah, you are our merch extraordinaire. But now, I mean, with you being on this show and being on Constellation, you were top billing there as well. So
yeah, a lot of people were requesting you to be in the picture, which is great,
So yeah, Micah, tell me about your time at Sacred 300, our most recent live show.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Like being at the show, getting to meet the listeners, like that's always my favorite part of the day. Because I work the merch booth usually with Dustin's wife, Holly, and, Ben's wife, Emily, helps us out as well. And that's always just fun, have girl time, with these people that I feel very close to, but we don't get to see very often. So that's like number one. And then, of course, the rest of the gang who I see, weekly, a lot of you guys, but not in person. Getting to see everybody and hang out was fantastic. We missed, the staff dinner that we were supposed to have because our plane got diverted, on our way there. So we were lucky we still arrived the same day because it was looking really dicey. But the show itself was a great time meeting the listeners, getting to chat with people, having people bring up my weird tweets and such. Like it was great. I really enjoyed that part of it. I'm still a very shy person. So it's not in my nature at all to be like in a crowd or to have a whole bunch of people talking to me, but I know it's good for me type deal. I know it's good to meet everybody and to have that experience. I want to say though, I hated the city. Like I don't ever want to go back to New York City for as long as I live. It was just, I mean, like the food was great. Everything else was terrible. I realize more and more the older I get, I have never been a city person. I don't think I ever will be. And my God, it was just terrible from start to finish. I couldn't, we literally got out of our cab. I almost got hit by a guy on a bicycle and I turned to Colin and said, I hate it here. And it was like, we were there for 5 minutes. So at the city part, very big dislike. Meeting our listeners, fantastic.
Yeah, it's New York City. I've been to a lot of big cities, but there is something definitely unique, both positive and negative, I would say, about New York. But I've been there, I think this might have been my third or fourth time there. And it's weird because every time I go there, because I'm staying in different places, it kind of feels totally different. Like my perspective of like where I am. And we went to Times Square, but we walked into it from a different angle than I did in the past. So it felt like, oh, I've never been here before, but I definitely have. So it's a very weird situation, but it's a very interesting place. I kind of like it and I kind of hate it. I don't know. I like visiting, but don't want to live there.
Dustin,
So
you've been to
No.
Tokyo now. Which city is cooler? Which
Oh,
which city
Tokyo.
just cooler? The cooler city.
I mean, Gene,
It's
you're setting me
Tokyo.
up. You're setting me up to be made fun of here, but
No. It's Tokyo. It's Tokyo. Come on,
dude,
you know.
Tokyo
When
is
when I first arrived in New York City, I was like, this is our best city in America. This is the one. You know,
the thing.
technologically, it's very ancient. You know, it's just services wise, it's dirty as hell too.
But I saw a rat.
You know,
I saw a New York City rat, and I was very excited.
There's rats everywhere. You know, you just see the rat. You know.
Yeah, I'd never seen one before. I
Oh,
was
you never
I was
seen one
stoked.
before? Yeah, no,
Not inside of a pet store.
yeah, no, I saw several. I was like, yeah, they're in New York City. I mean, there's a lot of rats here in DC too. So that's it.
Yeah. I feel
literally
like
and figuratively, but yeah.
yeah, exactly. I feel like thinking about what you see of New York City as far as the infrastructure and the experience of being in a big city, that kind of romanticized view, I feel like you actually kind of get that in Tokyo because you're like, wow, the trains are so clean. There's no one screaming at me. The streets are clean, just like, like you would imagine New York in a movie or something like that. Like it's crazy. There's so many people live here and everything is running smoothly. And then New York City in real life, you're like, whoa, this is cool, but I'm also slightly scared and it smells bad, seemingly everywhere. If it's not pee, then it's weed. It's like you're walking, it's like weed, pee, pizza. Ooh, it's like, and then more weed. It's like, it's a crazy place, but
weed, pee, and pizza in New York City.
Weed, pee, and pizza. That's right. Gene, I want to throw this to you, but I want to read this first from RK128 that says, hello, Brickers. I want to give a special shout out to Gene for not only signing my copy of Peach Showtime, but for also giving such a powerful speech. As someone who lost their mother to cancer, seeing you not only recover but thrive is amazing. You are amazing, man, and just wanted to give you your roses. Have a great day and keep fisting those bricks.
Thanks, RK. Thanks. Yeah, in the live show, I did a little impromptu speech. I don't know. It was you know what made me. So I did a little impromptu speech, basically thanking everyone and reflecting on my journey and my health journey. But the thing that really set me off was Chris Reagan starting to tear up. I was like, oh man, the little boy is tearing up. And it's so that got me very emotional and sent me into a tizzy of emotions, and that's basically that's the origin of it. If Chris didn't start tearing up, I'd be like, oh, great show, awesome, and I would have just moved on with my night. But when Chris started tearing up, I started to reflect on my own thing, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I want to take the stage and say a couple of things to everyone, to Colin, to Dustin and Chris, and to everyone in the audience. And yeah, it was cool to do autographs. I couldn't believe I was autographing a copy of Princess Peach Showtime. I see, a lot of my friends who are content creators who do stuff like this, and I've never really done a meet and greet type thing before. I've signed autographs before, which is interesting, but that was always like just out in the street or whatever. This was really cool. So that's why I don't know if I thanked LSM on stage for that, but thank you to LSM and Colin for providing me with that kind of experience too. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was funny for me when I joined the company because, well, I guess that was 2018 and we were very low key back then. It was like just Sacred Symbols, no video. We didn't do any kind of live stuff. We almost did a live thing at PAX, but they fucked us. But that's a whole nother story. So it wasn't, I had worked for the company for a few years until 2020 when we did our first event.
Wait, so you were with Sacred Symbols when the whole PAXes thing happened too?
I was editing, but I wasn't on the show yet.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to write a hit piece about me. Unfortunately, it could have been pretty good, but
that's true. So that's why you're not in the Google searches, and that's why everyone at Reset Arrow was like, "Who's Dustin? Can we trust this guy?" No, we can't.
Yeah, I've kind of remained kind of low key, which is kind of nice.
When
you search my name, get my Twitter, my Instagram, and then you get a lawyer named Dustin Furman. He pops up every once in a while.
Good.
At the Furman Honick Law Firm. Dude, we should get him on the show. Maybe he's a Nintendo fan.
Yeah, let's find out.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
Yeah, there's also an influencer named Gene Park in LA. And he's one of those guys that are on TikTok, and like he has one of those tiny little mics, and he's the one that will like go up to you on the beach.
Oh, like the iPhone, like
the
it's like
iPhone
earbuds.
Mics. Yeah. And he'll just go up to you and be like, "Hey, what's your body count?" and stuff like that. He's like one of those guys, but his name is also Gene Park, and we gas each other up on Instagram. Maybe I can invite him too.
Yeah. Oh, dude, imagine a show where we have to find another Micah Moriarty.
Dustin Furman, Gene Park, Colin Moriarty.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm doing a quick search of Micah Moriarty. Are you the only one? Oh, no. An Oriental rug professional is showing up on LinkedIn. They only have one connection. So I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see.
I'm a big fan of those rug cleaning videos. If you guys have ever seen those, where like, they clean just like a filthy rug, and then you watch the guy clean it.
That just sounds relaxing, actually. That sounds nice.
Oh, it's amazing. There's this one channel Colin and I always watch. I can't remember the guy. I think he's in Poland, but it's because you can't really understand what he's saying. We just watch him clean the rug. But it's amazing. I fall asleep every time.
Yeah, I always wonder about those rugs. Like, did someone bury this rug in a forest or something? Some of these are so bad. I'm like, why is it worth the investment of all these cleaning stuff? Because this rug doesn't look that nice. Let's be honest. Some of these rugs, they don't need to be saved. But I don't know if it's more eco-friendly to dump the 30 pounds of chemicals on this rug to fix it, or to just burn it or pitch it or something. I don't know.
It reminds me of on the Xbox subreddit. Someone had to restore an Xbox One that was used as a fucking ashtray. It was disgusting. It's like the most disgusting piece of technology I've ever seen. And he cleaned it. It was all clean, and he was like, this was not worth it. It cost more money to clean this thing than to just go out and just buy another new Xbox One.
Yeah, especially for a newer console like that. Though, dude, there's a whole scam industry of fake cleaning old consoles. Maybe not industry, but there's like a guy that's like, hey, I'm in Ethiopia and I found a DS buried in some trash. And then they make it look like it's brand new, but clearly a swap happened in the middle. It's like, there's no way that's working. Period. Amazing. It's not happening. But guys, I want to tell you or talk a little bit about the Nintendo store, because I got to go while we were there. Saturday was so miserable. It was so rainy, to the point it was never even lightly misting. It was either like a little bit or a lot of rain. But we were in New York City. We're on the company's dime. Like, we got to go. We have to go do stuff. This is why we're here a day early to go do stuff. Let's go do it. So we walked around in the miserable rain and walked all the way up to the Nintendo store from our hotel. And it had been a while since I had been there. I think the last time I was there was 2015. So getting close to 10 years ago. And it's very different now. But I was happy we were there during a Princess Peach Showtime event where you could line up and get a photo with Peach. She was there herself, made the trip to New York City. And the funniest part was, I think that maybe of this giant line, maybe 10% were kids. Maybe. These were, this was the Gene Park crowd here for Peach to get in line. And Gene, you were sad you weren't able to.
I didn't go. Was it really just mostly dudes in the line?
It was mostly dudes. Yeah, it was like,
wow.
It was mostly dudes.
Wow, man.
So it
I did see a YouTube influencer, like content creator, video, like a vlog of the actual Princess Peach Showtime premiere event, like the opening event that they had.
Yeah.
And that crowd looked a lot more appropriate for like the Princess Peach. Like there was a lot of women, like there was clearly a lot of gay dudes in there. I'm a little.
Do gay dudes like Peach? Is that a thing?
Gay people love Peach. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
She's
She's a gay icon.
So
she's the Carly Rae Jepsen of Nintendo.
Basically, yeah, and I love Carly Rae Jepsen too. So
Me too.
she's fantastic for her music. She makes great music.
Dude, I went and saw Carly Rae Jepsen a few years ago.
Oh, really? No kidding. That's
and what was
awesome.
so funny is that I didn't know really what the audience was like because I just listened to her music. I wasn't part of her like community or anything like that. And I felt so, I don't know if ashamed is the right word, because the audience was either gay dudes or mid-20s white guys like me. It's like, what going on here? What is it with the Carly Rae Jepsen audience? I was like, well, I guess I'm not really unique here. Not that I thought that was like, oh, I'm not like other girls. I listen to Carly Rae Jepsen. It wasn't like that. I just didn't expect to be in a sea of mid-20s white dudes.
I didn't.
In a Carly Rae concert.
Justin, I did not expect you to be a Carly Rae fan. So we're finding new things about each other right here live in front of y'all.
I think she's fallen off recently, but Emotion, fantastic album. I recommend it highly. But the Nintendo store, it was me and Brad and Holly. My dad came along, and it was really funny because my dad, I think he was starting to get tuckered out.
All my Carly Rae albums just loaded on my iPhone. Emotion Side B, dedicated Side B, and The Loneliest Time from 2022.
I haven't listened to that new one very much, but it's a bit mixed bag, I think, after that. But Emotion, good shit.
But I'm horrified to think of a line of dudes, including you, lining up to see Peach. When she's my girl. So.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna wait in the line for Peach,
but you did though, didn't you?
So there was a standee out front, like a life-size Peach standee, and so I got a picture with that. But I wasn't gonna wait in line to see the real Peach.
Oh, you didn't see the? The picture of you down on one knee. That's not the real Peach. I forgot.
That's not. No, that's a fucking fake Peach.
That'd be really funny if I couldn't tell the difference between the cardboard cutout and the flesh version too.
Yeah. So
okay.
But yeah, mentioning this line of men in line to see Peach, my dad was there, and I remember he was kind of, I don't know, you guys have seen my dad, and he kind of does this stance where his arms are crossed and he kind of like leans forward. I remember seeing him in the corner
and his
just
feet
observing
are
this
exact
Peach
same
line.
shoulder length as his shoulders, right?
Yeah, just like this.
Stands up, yeah.
Just watching this Peach line, I'm sure he's already, he's a middle-aged adult taking with his 30-year-old son and his friends to the Nintendo store in New York City. It's not that he didn't want to be there. He just didn't know what to do with himself. So he kind of just planted himself. And then he was very, like, when I went up to him and then he helped me, he held my bag while I tried on my new hoodie. So that was very nice of him. We talked about the sizing. He's like, oh yeah, this is, normally I get large, but the medium fit very nicely. So he's a great dad. He's a great guy. But there was that moment I was like, I don't know if he knows what to do with himself right here. Because this was after we went and looked at a bunch of anime figures, which I know that's definitely not his thing. Nintendo he at least has a connection to. But so yeah, the Nintendo store is super cool. Very busy that day. I got this hoodie. Gene, I know I told you, but I got that same Tears of the Kingdom shirt that you have. I was surprised they still had it.
I saw you wear it in a recent show, actually.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a cool store. I don't know if I feel like it might have been a little cooler before because they don't have like a museum area anymore. They used to have that Game Boy that was in the Gulf War that was all melty and stuff. They don't have that anymore, which is a little disappointing. But you were there pretty recently, like within the last year, right, Gene?
Yeah. I've gone almost every time I've gone to New York. This last trip was actually the first time I haven't stopped by the store. But otherwise, I usually make sure that it's funny that I've never seen the Statue of Liberty. I have no idea if the Statue of Liberty exists. I cannot confirm empirically with my own eyes that the Statue of Liberty is a real thing. I've never seen it from offshore, but I've been to the Nintendo New York store every time I've been in New York, except for the last trip. Because this last trip was just way too busy, and I would have wanted to stay in line with all the dudes to see the flesh Princess Peach,
Right.
And I just wouldn't have had time, so I just missed out. And it's too bad because again, there was a press event for Princess Peach, and she was there again. But I was at Dice last month, or in February, so I keep missing out.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're ever in New York City, obviously check out the Nintendo store. Pretty cool place. I almost impulse bought Princess Peach Showtime when I was there. Then I thought, I don't have my Switch here even with me. So maybe I'll just get it home.
I actually haven't bought it on physical, and I feel like it's the first Nintendo first party game that I haven't bought on physical yet. But we'll talk about Princess Peach a little bit more later.
Oh yeah. Guys, let's go ahead and get into the news here. Starting with number 1. Nintendo Switch has a bit further to go to be the very best, like no one ever was. Jim Ryan, who is now the ex-CEO of PlayStation just as of 2 days ago, he is now out. He recently confirmed, he did an exit interview type thing on the official PlayStation podcast, that the PS2 has sold a total of 160 million units. So this was an increase by 5 million. On his way out, he's like, hey, we got that extra 5 mil, kind of solidifying that top spot. So what does this mean for the Switch? Before these numbers, the system needed 15 million additional sales to take the number 1 spot of the highest selling console of all time. But with these new figures, Nintendo now must secure an additional 5 million units for totaling 20 million in order to get that number 1 spot. So I thought this was kind of interesting. I know it's like passively Nintendo news, but when I saw this get reported out by a bunch of places, all of them were about Nintendo because the Switch taking that spot from PlayStation 2 would be a very significant thing to be the number 1 selling console of all time. So Switch is obviously, as we've been talking about, nearing the end of its life. And I want to ask you guys, do you think that is it still possible for Switch to take the number 1 spot from Sony? Because, they've now, it's already felt like a tough battle this late in this life cycle. And now with that additional 5 million, seems a little dicey. I don't know, Micah, do you think that Nintendo can clinch it at the very end here?
Honestly, I don't. And part of that is just knowing, having talked to some of the listeners, people like myself who kept putting off buying the OLED Switch because it seemed like the next Switch was right around the corner. There are 2 distinct times where I was like, oh, maybe I'll actually buy it. Nah, I think the new Switch is coming soon. And that happened to me twice. And so it's like that at this point, I am going to just keep my current Switch until this next one allegedly comes out next year, because it's like, well, what am I going to buy a new one and then buy another one the following year? So for myself, I'm not buying any more Switches. And at this point in my life, I don't know anyone who doesn't have one. A year ago, I knew some people who didn't have a Switch yet. At this point, I don't know anyone who wanted a Switch that doesn't have one by now. So I don't feel like they're going to sell 20 million more, especially with people who are in the know, being aware that the next console is, imminent. I don't feel like they're going to sell that many more.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty significant climb, but Gene, you're really the Switch master of the group here, totaling more Switches than probably
6.
Definitely Mike and I, because I have...
Yeah, Gene bought them all.
I have 3, if I include Holly's. I have my regular OLED, and then we have a Switch Lite that's Holly's. And then Micah, you have 1.
Just 1.
So Gene, you reign supreme here.
I have 6. I have 2 regular Switches. One is a regular OG Switch, the one that I bought from the Arab guy in a Safeway for $500. And I have the Monster Hunter Switch, Monster Hunter Rise edition, because I really wanted that one. And I have the OLED Switch, and I also have the Zelda OLED Switch, and I have a green, the turquoise Switch Lite, and then the GameCube purple Switch Lite, which you gotta have. So
yeah.
So I think it'll hit easily. I think it'll hit number 1 easily. Because they haven't had a price drop at all. As soon as the Switch becomes $200, guess what? I'm gonna buy another one. So for
Gee,
so for
no.
so for every person that's like Micah, who's like who's been waiting and be like, oh well, I already have a Switch and I'm just not gonna I'm just gonna wait for the next one, right? There's people like me out there who'll be like, oh well, it's a price drop, great, I'm gonna get the color I want now, you know.
Yeah, the thing that I was wondering, Gene, is you think of you mentioned price drops, but also once the next Switch comes out, then that's when those price drops can start coming in.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, is that going to be an entry point for people to start buying Switches that they've held off this long? It can become a truly very casual thing.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they kind of already have an extremely casual device in the Switch Lite that at $200, but I mean, $200 is still, that's not a small amount of money. So I mean, a $150, maybe even at some point a $99 Switch Lite,
dude,
that's enough to buy the whole family.
Yeah, you might at that point you might as well get every single color. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go that far. I promise. But if a Switch Lite was $99 and there was a color that I didn't want, I do have all the colors I want. But if they came out with like a Pokemon version of that, yeah, I'll buy that one too. $99, no problem.
I wonder, Micah, what do you think about this? Because one other way that I thought that they could really boost things potentially, but I don't know, I'm mixed about it, even as I say it out loud. Do you think Nintendo could ever do something where they know they make a lot of money on software and they want to make the cheapest possible Switch? What about a Switch that doesn't switch very late in its life? That they're like, hey, this thing is $100. It plays Switch games. It doesn't have a screen. It's an actual console version of the Switch. Maybe that could be a way that, truly a casual device at that point.
An actual box version?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. And it is something I neglect to think about is if you were to get into the Switch this late in its life cycle, the catalog of games is phenomenal right now. So yeah, it is one of those, if they either came out with a different version of, the Switch Lite, the opposite side of the coin here, or they come out with just like really steep price reductions, because they're not going to cut the prices on the games. But if they cut the price of the console,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
And then you hit up Target when they're doing their buy two, get one free sale. I still don't know if it's going to be 20 million worth if they do a price drop like that, but it is true that with that catalog of games available to you this many years in, I mean, you could sincerely get into the Switch now and be totally content with all the things that are offered on it.
You'll be good for the next 7 years.
Idea.
Yeah, you'll be good for a long, long time. This late in the game, still, it's a great system. It's my favorite system of all time.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you guys, so I'll start with Eugene here, is that the way that this came out, Jim Ryan on this podcast, it felt to me that, and maybe I'm just reading into things, that Sony does really care about having this number one spot. So they make a little extra effort to go in and say, hey, this console that from 2 generations ago, I guess 2 or 3, is now, oh yeah, we actually sold 5 million more than we initially said, kind of solidifying that. But what I want to know, Gene, do you think Nintendo even cares about having the number one slot, or did they simply just be like, yeah, we make the most money, so we're kind of good? Do you think they're going to try to push to try to get this?
I think that's true that they ultimately wouldn't care if they didn't get it. But I think it does matter to them to get number one. I think it's part of the reason why they're actually pushing the Switch 2 off. They're like, let's see what let's see how much further we can push the Switch in too. Why not? And I'm sure there's other factors why the Switch 2 is delayed, or the next console is delayed too. And I'm sure the beating the PS2 is not the only reason, but I think it's part of it. I think it matters to them. I think it matters for Nintendo to be the best. They want to be the best. Yeah,
Micah, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Gene that it would be like very prestigious for Nintendo to take this, marker here. I don't know though. in the spirit of like how I feel about Nintendo, in the way that, well, they don't care about having the most powerful console. They care about having great software, things like that. So I don't know if the corporate side of things would, I don't know how much they really care about it. I feel like it would be a great accomplishment for them, and it would be like an awesome, thing to have to be able to say about your console. But it seems to me to matter a lot to PlayStation, which is funny to me only because PlayStation 5 is just so popular in the marketplace that it's funny that they bring up these old accolades as if they're not just crushing it right now anyways. So, I mean, for Nintendo, it's always going to be, to me, just the fun place to game, the lighthearted, it's just the enjoyable place to game. And I feel like that's what matters to me the most as the consumer. I want them to be successful because I want the products to continue. I want the hardware to continue. I don't want to see their games just shuttled on other platforms. But I don't know how much it matters to them to have like the number one selling console. But I do think they want to be the best place to play games for the people who enjoy their titles.
So yeah, we'll have to see with Nintendo Switch. They still have a decent way to go, but I think the one thing that's worth mentioning on our way out here from this topic is just that Nintendo likes to support the previous generation for a pretty significant time into the next. You think of the 3DS being supported into the life of the Switch, even for, I want to say, 2 years or something. We were still getting new 3DS games and stuff like that. So a lot to consider on how they're going to navigate. And I think another important factor too is just the backwards compatibility of the new Switch, which I'm feeling more and more like is going to be locked in as a thing, but we will have to see about that. Moving on to number 2, guys, this is when I was writing this up, I was thinking this feels like a very Sacred Symbols style news story here, because it's kind of in the nitty gritty, but it's fun to do this every once in a while. And so this has been a pretty interesting story over the past week. Nintendo has made some major changes at a Nintendo testing center here in the US. Kotaku reports, quote, according to 4 current and former contractors, the result is a massive downsizing that comes amid layoffs across the rest of the video game industry. And after the Mario Maker, in this case Nintendo, not the actual Mario Maker, reportedly delayed the launch of a Switch 2 successor until 2025. So this quote comes from some people that worked there. Quote, these changes will involve some contract assignments ending, as well as the creation of a significant number of new full-time employee positions, spokesperson for Nintendo told Kotaku. Oh, sorry, that was from Nintendo, not from there's a quote from people below. Contractors at Nintendo of America who feel undervalued and underpaid have long called on the company to make them full-time, quote, red badge employees instead of exploiting loopholes in seasonal work requirements. While some of them are now finally converted to direct hires, others, including testers with over 10 years of experience, are getting the boot, though Nintendo says everyone impacted will receive severance packages. Nintendo then provided a quote to Kotaku about this going on. And they said, Nintendo of America has reorganized its product testing functions to drive greater global integration in game development efforts. The changes will also better align NOA with integral testing procedures and operations. These changes will involve some contract assignments ending, as well as the creation of a significant number of new full-time employee positions. For all assignments that are ending, the contractors' agencies with Nintendo of America's support will offer severance packages and provide assistance during their transition. For those contractor associates who will be leaving us, we are tremendously grateful for the important contributions that have been made to our business, and we extend our heartfelt thanks for their hard work and service to Nintendo. So, final part about this. This is from Kotaku. It says, quote, the shift also comes during a recent lull in Nintendo of America's testing department, 3 contractors told Kotaku. They said there have been no major first-party games in the testing pipeline, and none of them are aware of anyone having hands-on time with the upcoming Switch 2. despite previous hopes that would arrive as early as the second half of 2024. They also weren't sure how Nintendo of America could continue to test massive games, like last year's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which was praised for its technical performance and lack of bugs with the new cuts. Nintendo declined to comment on the status of its testing pipeline. So, sorry guys, I know that was a lot of reading, but I wanted to make sure we got all the details in here. But Nintendo, not immune to some layoffs here, despite, of course, all these successful companies still having some layoffs, some reorganizations. So I wanted to ask you guys, why is Nintendo downscaling games and hardware testing right before the Switch 2? This is what sounds kind of confusing about things. Just that you would think that during this time, they're getting ready for a new console. Now's the time testing would be ramping up. But something is going on here, some kind of reorganizing of things. So, Gene, I know I threw a lot at you here, but what do you think about this? Nintendo having some layoffs of their own and some reorganizing?
I don't know. Just, not to say that this article is like pointless or anything, but I don't know if this article says much, other than that contractor workers are just kind of getting filtered out, and that happens all the time. I never know what to think about these stories because they're contract workers, and that's just the nature of contract work. You're not going to be part of the company, that we have those in the Washington Post. We have for people who we laid off and we hired them back as contract workers, but they have less privilege than they do as I would as a full-time employee, and I just never really know what to do with stories with these, because there's so much like nitty gritty labor reporting, and I mean, what does it mean? It's kind of like the Rockstar reporting about GTA 6 being delayed because people want to go back into the office, and it's like, okay, well, of course GTA 6 could be delayed if things don't work out, and then
Right. Can you even really? I guess it is a layoff if it's unexpected, but is it a layoff when it's a contract employee? Or is it just an ending of a contract?
It's just an ending of a contract, So yeah, so obviously it's people losing jobs, right? But
right,
when you go into a contract, you're going in there knowing full well that it could just end at any time. So you'd have to expect that. So hopefully you're living your life accordingly. With that, you have enough saved up. You have other plans going. I mean, look at Dagan. This is exactly what Dagan's been going through.
Yeah. The thing that I wonder too when I saw this, because anytime there's any type of people losing their job, there's backlash, of course. And I think that is a reasonable response to people losing jobs, of course. At the same time, what I found interesting about this, and I'm not saying from the perspective of Kotaku here, but just from some of the things I read online, is just that people have been against the way the video game industry has done contract work for a while, because as Kotaku mentions in their article, that a lot of times contract work is all about exploiting loopholes in order to spend less money to not have full-time employees.
Yeah.
And in this case, yeah, it sucks for the contract employees that aren't going to get hired, but moving away from contract work is that's good. I mean, that's kind of the ideal situation, is that hopefully there are less people being exploited. Unfortunately, it comes at the cost of some of these people not being able to have a job working contract work for Nintendo, but it doesn't necessarily seem like a bad thing in the grand scheme of things.
Especially if some of them, as Nintendo says, and they could be lying, who knows, but as Nintendo says, some of them are switching to full-time work, So again, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't really mean anything where there is no switch to testing, or people have lost their jobs massively. I think this is just kind of just nitty gritty reporting, and I'm not sure if it's really indicative of any kind of large shift within Nintendo or the industry in general.
Micah, I heard some people, some of the talk about this was that with Nintendo moving things around, putting things more internal and switching around their testing stuff, is that this might be a way to try to also, in addition to all the other things we mentioned, but lock down some leaks, because not often, but it does happen that these leaks come from contract testers instead of actual employees. So take it any way you want, but I'm curious what you think about that as well.
No, I think that is a good way to look at it as well, because I want to say too, having worked in IT and we had a lot of contract workers as part of our structure, it was always celebrated when a contractor got brought on full time. Like internally, we were always happy when a full time position was created instead, and we could convert one of the contractors to that. So in general, this news story isn't all doom and gloom when it says that there have been, several full-time positions opened up in addition to some of these contractor positions being lost. It's like, well, hopefully those are people being converted to full-time employees. And there is definitely more of a sense of responsibility that comes with that in terms of not spilling the beans, not wanting to lose your job. If you have a real stake in this, if this is your like, okay, I work here full time now, I have benefits, are you, more or less likely to try and leak something? I would assume, in my opinion, for how I would feel about it, I would be far less likely to leak something about a project if I was a full-time benefited employee and felt secure in my job. So I would say that's potentially part of it, because across the industry, leaks are a problem. And even the silly ones, like in movies, when it was like Tom Holland couldn't stop, talking about, Marvel movies, like, things he wasn't supposed to say.
The poster,
and it's like,
he like pulled out the poster for Endgame or whatever. He
yeah, it's
revealed
like
the title on accident. Yeah.
even in silly ways, leaks are just an issue across the entertainment industry. If people need to get creative on how to try and solve this, if it means treating the employees better and bringing them on full time, maybe that is part of the solution.
Michael brings up a great point. That's a huge reason why Rockstar wants to bring the employees into the office for GTA 6, because look at how GTA 6 got super leaked. So when you actually lock your people into the building, inside the building, it's less leaky.
And I think it's worth pointing out too, what's interesting is that the Switch 2, from the reporting we've seen, right? Obviously, this is not an official delay. I see comments about that a lot, because I've titled like Switch 2 delay, and people say, how can you delay something that's not been announced? It's like, you know what I mean? It's been internally delayed, but I wonder that with this internal delay, I'm sure that they feel a little bit more they feel the need to be a bit more careful. They're giving developers more time, and every day that you're not announced is another day that something could get leaked. And so as they've kind of extended the timeout, they're like, okay, well, we need to keep progressing, but we have to be careful about these things. And it's amazing too, thinking about how little we know about Switch 2, when supposedly through some of these leaks, like Moore's Law is Dead has done some stuff, and others too, that this console may have been done for much longer than we think. That internally it was kind of like set in stone and ready to go, and now it's being pushed out even further. It's crazy that surely there's going to be some unexpected Nintendo element to the Switch 2. I find it unlikely that Nintendo will release a console that they don't have some kind of gimmick to it. And we've talked about this before, like, will Switch 2, is it just going to be a straight power bump? But I don't know. I don't see that being part of Nintendo's DNA. I feel like you even look at something like Nintendo DS to 3DS, which ultimately 3DS is just a beefed up 2DS, but it has a 3D screen. And that was kind of the thing, which then eventually they kind of removed with 2DS. So I don't know. This is kind of slightly off topic, but we've discussed it before. But I want to know, Gene, as we get closer, do you think that Nintendo will try to maybe not change the formula, but do something that is kind of unexpected for the next Switch, or will it be safe?
I think there'll probably be something unexpected. And one thing I'll definitely say is I doubt it's going to be called something like the Switch Pro, and
Yeah.
I also doubt it's going to be called Switch 2. One thing Nintendo does is that they don't follow the naming conventions of other companies. They're not going to look at Apple and be like, "Oh, Apple did that, so we should copy what Apple said, and so we'll call our thing the something Pro." No, they're not going to do that, and I don't think they're going to call something in the part two because that's exactly what PlayStation does, right? Um, no, Nintendo is the one that wants to set the definition. They're the ones that came up with Super Nintendo. They're the ones that came up with Super Mario and Super Metroid, right? They're the ones that came up with Mario 64. They're the ones that came up with Nintendo Direct. Now Xbox is just copying exactly what they say. Xbox Developer Direct. Nintendo always wants to set the language, and set the language. They want to be the leader in setting the language for their products and the kind of services that they offer. So, yeah, whatever the next Switch is going to be called, I think it's going to be called something different.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this rumor on the show just because I didn't think it had a lot of validity to it. There was a survey on YouTube or something talking about consoles, and one of them was listed as the Nintendo Attach, or like Switch Attach specifically, which I don't think someone at a YouTube survey knows the name of the next Switch, but it does make me wonder. The Switch, one of its main things was the ability to add and remove Joy-Cons to it. And so I wonder if they could take that further. I mean, man, imagine a Switch that you can attach a second screen to and kind of have that DS type format to.
When you went like this, for listeners, when it looked like he was holding up a purse, and I was like, imagine a Switch where they add another handle, just like the GameCube, and I was like, hell yeah, you know?
Yeah, just add the handle,
just another handle. Just so we can have Sydney Sweeney posing with it instead of Paris Hilton now, you know.
Oh, dude, I forgot about that.
Yeah, Paris Hilton was posing with the GameCube, right? So now it's been generations. So now I guess we would have Sydney Sweeney and I guess Zendaya holding, you know. Zendaya's already getting older too, right? So I don't know.
The funny thing about the GameCube handle is that I remember first saying, like, this thing's stupid. Why would you put a handle on a console that stays in the same place? You take the GameCube somewhere one time and you get it. Like, oh, it's actually pretty cool. Little handle.
Because of the handle, the GameCube was probably the console that I brought to people's houses the most, you know, and also it had like the four controllers built in, right? So it's like it felt like the most multiplayer handy game, and of course it has Smash, so you know.
Oh yeah,
of course you bring it around, you know.
Man, the GameCube was sick. I wish I never had one at the time. I have one now. I've played it many times, but I didn't have one as a kid.
Yeah. I had one when it was out. It wasn't my favorite console at the time. I mean, come on, that was when the PS2 and Xbox was out. But you know, I still use it for like Metroid Prime and Wind Waker. You know.
Yeah.
Star Fox Adventures. You know.
I never played that game. It has furry vibes.
Yeah. They should bring that back. You know, it's a very the time is right for Star Fox Adventures to come back. You know.
For the furry, I feel like there'd be
not for furries, just for people who like anthropomorphic animals.
Those are furries, Gene. Those are furries.
Okay, guys, let's get into some quickies to end off our news here. First of all, Micah, Unicorn Overlord, has sold over 500K units worldwide. So pretty exciting here. We'll be talking about Unicorn Overlord in the what we've been playing in a bit, but congrats on the success for a pretty niche game, I would say, overall. The other thing here, reminder, online play for the 3DS and the Wii U ends on April 8th. So you won't be able to play any of those games online anymore. The store is already down. I saw there was an update there doing the final Splatoon matchmaking rotation or something for Wii U. So if you want to bust out that Wii U, get a couple rounds in for old time's sake, now is the time. Firmware version 18.0.0 is now out for the Switch, and it's pretty minor. They added a 15-minute timer for auto sleep, so if that's interesting to you, it's there. And then also, of course, the classic general system stability improvements to enhance the user's experience. So enjoy an enhanced experience with your Switch with this new firmware. Last, but certainly not least, F-Zero Maximum Velocity for the Game Boy Advance is now available on Nintendo Switch Online. I had a question for you guys here. Between the F-Zero the F-Zero 99, I think it's 99, and then this game coming to Game Boy Advance, are there these hints? You think, Micah? Could we be gearing up for the return of Captain Falcon?
I don't trust Nintendo to do that. They are leading us on the way they always lead people on. I can't put any stock in it. They're too shifty. They'll be like, "Oh, we didn't think you'd take it that way." That's Nintendo.
Yeah.
So
that is true. That is true. That's
for
very
the
true.
fans, I'd like to believe that these are little, breadcrumbs leading you to a new game. But in my actual heart, I don't think Nintendo's doing it. I think it's just going to be like, no, this was all a good time. It was just a good time to put a bunch of things out relatively close together and make it seem like we could have been hinting at something.
Yeah, Nintendo loves to do that. I initially said, I don't trust. I thought you were going to say, I don't trust Captain Falcon. And I didn't know if there was like some kind of, if he was canceled or something happened. Like he Falcon punched a kid. Something like that.
Punched my pussy.
There's a meme that he Falcon punches pregnant women.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh no! Keep him away from your house, Dustin.
yeah, exactly. Keep him away from Holly. But yeah. There was that joke that Captain Falcon is like the best way to perform an abortion. So.
He shows up on the Ring doorbell. You're like, hide your wife, hide your family.
I feel like Captain Falcon kind of has like a Homelander vibe from
a little
The
bit,
Boys.
Right? He's a little demented,
Like he's like the guy, like he's on a cereal commercial. He's the role model for kids. Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, he's punching pregnant women, and he's laughing about it. So maybe he's not to be trusted. But Gene, do you think F-Zero? Am I delusional here?
I think I'm with Micah. I think Nintendo's crazy, and they're just dropping F-Zero bombs on us for no reason. Mm-hmm. But there are rumors that they want F-Zero, but I mean, there's so many rumors about Nintendo, and not a lot of them are happening. So
yeah. Dude, I'm still thinking
Nate the Hate on his podcast. I was listening to Nate the Hate. He's an insider, but Nate said that he has heard absolutely nothing at all about the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker re-releases for 2024, and that is very, very sad because this would be a great year to release those games. Because especially since there's nothing going on. And it would do so much to excite everyone. But yeah, I don't know. Metroid Prime 4, we're still waiting for that.
There's I didn't know how to write this up, because it seems sometimes there's a rumor that comes out and then it spreads around, it gets bigger, but the initial source of it is so small that I don't know whether it's really worth talking about. But here we are talking about it anyway. I was seeing rumors about a new Fire Emblem game coming out this year, which feels unexpected, but it would be in line with Fire Emblem Echoes being a remake of an older game.
That sounds right too. Yeah.
So,
I haven't heard anything either, but yeah.
That would be I would be excited about that as someone who
Absolutely
didn't really like Engage that much, but I'm always down for more Fire Emblem. So we'll see. Let's talk about what we've been playing. We mentioned Unicorn Overlord selling quite a bit. Micah, you say you're about halfway done. How's it going?
Oh, it is still fantastic. I'd like to think I helped sell a few of those copies. Jaffe and I were on Summon Sign recently, and we were just gushing about Unicorn Overlord. And we saw a few comments after that episode went live of people saying, you know what? I tried the demo after I heard you guys talk about it, and I get it. Now I'm going to buy the game. So I'd like to think I sold at least 5 of those. Yeah, I hit the 27-hour mark last night. I have been completely distracted from the main story. My favorite part of the game is still just wandering the map, unlocking all the towns, liberating the towns. I don't want to say it's Far Cry in the sense of like, because Far Cry is very busy and a lot going on. It reminds me of that, though, just in the essence of I love the exploration, coming across a town that needs to be saved. You save the town, you move on. Those just seem like there's enough of them peppered in to keep it interesting. There's enough of them peppered in that you don't have to try and grind levels. It doesn't feel like a grind at all. This is a game where the level progression, so long as you just go explore, you'll be the right level for the main story quests, so long as you don't just make a beeline to each main story quest and try and do them all in sequence. As long as you keep enjoying liberating the towns or going, exploring the map. There's a guy who just encourages you like, oh, please fill in the map and I'll give you rewards. So they encourage you in those small ways where it doesn't feel like a grind to go do these things. It doesn't feel like a grind to go level up. They just manufacture a lot of different ways for you to be in the correct place, for the next mission that you're going to be tackling. And I'm still enjoying it immensely. How long to beat has this game? I think for like main story only is around like 39 hours. The like main story plus extras that they have listed, I think is closer to like 60, or no, closer to like around 50 something. So hitting 27 hours, I think, I'm definitely going for like main plus extras on this, not like a completionist run. So I'm hoping I'm about halfway done with it. In terms of my level in the game, like right now, I am halfway to the level of like the final quest that you unlock. Because that's one thing I do like. It's one of those games where on your map, you can unlock battles that are too high level for you, but they just stay there. And then you'll know I'll come back here when I'm level whatever. So I am about halfway to the level of the final battle, what I believe to be the final battle. And so I feel like I'm making good pace with this game. The New York trip threw me off a bit with my gaming. But we're back to full steam ahead with it. And I'm still having just a fantastic time. Really do recommend the demo, because if you're unsure about like, am I going to enjoy this gameplay? It's just one of those games you have to try it to understand it. If you watch the gameplay, it really doesn't sell it to you. It feels boring. It felt boring to me. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to like this at all. Or definitely, too, check out the Summon Sign episode that we did about the game. We didn't spoil anything story-wise. We just talked a lot about how the game works and the mechanics of it. We did like a real deep discussion in that, but without spoiling anything. So I totally recommend checking out a few minutes of that if you're on the fence about this game. It is my game of the year so far. Like there's no contest for me right now that this is my favorite game I've played in a very long time.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a shout out to Japanese devs for really leading the charge on demos, and good ones too. Like
it's been an interesting time, hasn't it? It's been so many demos lately. There's Stellar, well, Stellar Blade is Korean, but there's Stellar Blade. It's a lot of demos in Asia. We had the Rebirth demo, obviously. FF16 had a demo. Capcom does demos all the time. They didn't do one for Dogma, but yeah, it's kind of wild.
It's crazy because even this was not last year, but maybe the year before, Square Enix did a demo for Valkyrie Elysium, and I liked it. It was a fun demo. I was like, this is game. I don't know.
Square Enix is doing so many demos. It must be working out for them, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and the thing with that is that game, I enjoyed the demo. I had fun with it, and so I bought the game. The game reviewed terribly, but I had a good time playing the demo, so I still bought it and played it. And yeah, it was maybe a low 7 out of 10, maybe a little lower in some cases, but I knew going into it that I had a fun time, so I just was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to play it. Whereas there was no demo and I saw the reviews were bad, I just wouldn't have played it. So having those demos out there has been really awesome. And yeah, the Stellar Blade demo, pretty cool. But
yeah, I haven't tried Stellar Blade yet, but I totally agree because demos usually do sell me on a game. It is extremely rare that I play a demo and I don't end up getting the game. Like Octopath Traveler, that demo sold me on it. Pikmin 4 sold me on it. Like,
that's right. Pikmin.
It is really rare
Yeah.
that I play a demo and I don't say, wow, I really like this. I think Princess Peach Showtime is the only one that deterred me from buying the game full price because I think it's cute, colorful. I thought it was fun, but I didn't want to pay full price for it. That's the only, and I would have, if I hadn't played the demo, I would have gotten the game immediately. But that's maybe the only time it's backfired and that I didn't actually like click with a game that I played a demo for.
Gene, I have completed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we got to do a spoiler cast.
We do
with Brad. I know Brad's about to explode because he for the last 2 weeks he's been asking me.
That's right.
It's.
I don't know if he finished it in New York. I think, or maybe he just did finish it. But I
think he did before.
I think he just did finish it. Yeah, that's right. Because we could. That's right. Because we couldn't talk about it around Chris. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Overall thoughts on the game.
Overall thoughts. It's one of those games that I think, especially, we'll look back and be like, wow, it is an RPG and it reminds me of like what a great JRPG should be in a classical sense. It is great combat. It is, has tons of different mechanics. Music. And just the
music is popping off like crazy.
Oh, the music. I feel like the thing about it that is so impressive to me, and maybe this sounds lame, but the breadth of the journey. How many different places you go, how many different things you do, the amount of things to do, and the way that the open world stuff is fun and you can do it, but it's not filler, because even if you skipped all of the open world stuff, there would be an amazing, well done game here.
That's what I did. I skipped all the open world stuff.
Yeah,
it's still my game of the year. Yeah,
it's I will not spoil anything. The ending, wow. I'll just say wow. Something else here. So we'll have a spoiler cast on that soon, but amazing game.
Yeah, we really should have a spoiler cast. Like like you just saying wow just made me want to explode too. I'm just like, ugh, like it sucks that we can't talk about it. So yeah, I think we do need to do this. We need to get on the calendar soon.
Yeah. We'll figure that out. So now there's
for all of our sakes, I think, and we can't wait for Colin because Colin's gonna play it and he's also gonna hate it too, probably because it's popular and well loved. So that's why.
Well, I finished it. You finished it. Brad has finished it. I think Maddie has. Being that this is such a big game and so relevant to our audience, I wouldn't be surprised if we do multiple spoiler casts with different sets of people. So maybe we'll do round 1 and then another round later.
Let's do it.
I want to tell you guys about this other game because it's just so interesting that I played last night. So this game was
about this one.
free on Steam for the first day of release. It's from the team that did that game, Totally Accurate Battle Simulator or something like that. Tabs. I know it was on Game Pass for a while. It's called Content Warning. And so this is a game very much in line with Lethal Company. And so here's how it works. Here's how Content Warning works. First of all, it uses proximity chat. You don't want to be in Discord. You want to be using the in-game chat because that adds to, as someone gets further away, you can't hear them as much. So the goal of this game is that you all start up on the surface high up. And there's like a little whiteboard and it says you want to get the camera, get your flashlights, go to the world below, and you film basically like a YouTube video, but in this game it's called SpookTube. You want to film a video of scary stuff.
Yeah.
And then survive and come back and upload it in order to go viral on SpookTube. So Your camera, I think, has like a minute and a half of footage on it. So this last night was me, Brad,
No.
Ben, and Brandon. And what is so fun about this game is that the stuff you record on the camera, you get to rewatch at the end. So if you're listening to this, you can go to my Twitter and you can see one of our escapades down below. You can see the video, and it has like your voices in it. So it has like full recording. You can hear me and Brad and Ben and Brandon. And when you're down below, there's all kinds of monsters in this scary place. Your goal is to try to film these monsters and get close to them, but not get killed at the same time. And it is very, very fun. It also needs a lot of work, especially coming from Lethal Company, which Lethal Company also, when it launched, needed a lot of work. But they're kind of a similar concept of game where you're going down below. It's real scary, multiplayer game. It's scary, but it's not, because it's funny. Just because you'll hear someone that's like, "Oh, help," and then they can't talk anymore because you're using the in-game chat. And it's a pretty fun game. So unfortunately, if you're listening to this, you cannot get it for free on Steam anymore. It's only for launch day. Kind of a brilliant idea for a game like this, that they get a bunch of people in day one, spread the word. So, Gene, we'll have to get you in there at some point.
No, I need to try that. I need to try it. Oh, God damn it. It just ended. It just ended 2 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago, man.
How much is it?
It's $8.
Oh, $8. Okay, that's
I mean, I'll still get it, but yeah, shit. I literally just saw it, and I refreshed the page, and now it's $7.99.
Dang, dude. But
you all just saw me fumble a free game right now.
Fumbled the free game, dude.
Yeah, it looks super interesting. I definitely want to try this out. Lethal Company, I never really got interested in, but I feel like, well, this one looks a lot more colorful. The surface area
it is partially.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the surface area is very, very colorful, and then the contrast when you go underneath is hilarious. So
yeah, and it's funny too, because in between, as you upload your videos, you get ad revenue to buy new items. So you can buy like a boom mic, and it has this really funny physics where you're like trying to push around this boom mic. You can get a taser on a stick, so you can like shock the monsters and they'll like fall over and you're filming it and stuff. It's there's not enough items yet, and it's not very clear about what some of them do, because we were trying to figure out the boom mic. We're like, is the goal to just increase the production quality to get more views? Does the boom mic do anything? I don't really know. But some of the other stuff was pretty fun. And some of the monsters could be pretty annoying. In the clip I posted, there's this like snail guy who we found at the very beginning, and we just couldn't get away from him. He just was following around. We couldn't really even film anything. It's like, well, what are you supposed to do? This snail guy. And he almost took me out in this clip. So check out content warning. I can't give it a full recommendation yet, just because, like I said, we were having a lot of problems with connections and stuff. It needs some work, but keep an eye on it. It's pretty interesting. The last thing I'll say real quick, I did start Dragon's Dogma 2, and I'm interested. I'm surprised that it feels pretty janky, in line with the first one. Like,
you did play the first one.
I didn't finish it, but I played probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of the first one. And the jank that put me off of the first one is also present in the second one.
It's still here. I was also super surprised. You're not wrong for thinking that. I was also like, wow, they really did make the sequel to Dragon's Dogma. You know?
Well, but Gene, I'm following in your footsteps. I don't know what show you said this on, but I made my character a nice hot man, very, very attractive. And I have a crew of hot ladies following me around.
That's right. Yeah.
So I've got this like harem situation going on. I'm like, I'm good with this. So excited to get more into that. I'll be probably playing that later today. Gene, I saved you for last because we had a write-in. And I know last week you wanted to talk about Princess Peach, or last episode you wanted to talk about Peach, but it was still under embargo. So let's go to Steven Campos here, who says, Hello, Punchers. I 100%ed Princess Peach Showtime, and I wanted to give you my review. I'll give this game a 9 out of 10. Just because this game is made for 10-year-old little girls doesn't mean that it shouldn't be shown any respect. In fact, I would give this game my, quote, best game made for 10-year-old girls award.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about you making that award specifically. A little odd, but that's okay. He says, I adore this game, and anyone expecting this to be Super Mario Bros. Odyssey 2 is just getting into the game with the wrong mindset. I love the cheesiness of the game. In fact, my favorite character of this game has to go to Junior Detective. Shout out to that little man. The only real issue I have is the frame rate. The game chugs in certain sections, and the controls take a long time to get used to. I 100% of the game. Overall, I'll totally buy this game for any 10-year-old little girl. Again, the mention of the 10-year-old girl, I'm not saying anything wrong. You bought it for yourself, and you recommend it. So
shout out to Steven, but I'm actually scanning his entire message for any mention like a daughter or like a friend's like daughter or something like that he's buying this for. No, this is all his perspective.
Yeah,
it's all him. Yeah.
So Gene, what do you think about you can finally talk fully about Princess Peach Showtime. Last episode, we were kind of down on it of the demo, like Mike was mentioning, being a little too kid friendly. But you said, hey, don't let the demo fool you. So now you're fully unleashed. What do you think about Princess Peach Showtime?
I think that it's much better than the demo lets on, but it's not that much better than the demo lets on.
Okay.
But there are levels that are so much better than what the demo offers. My favorite level is the figure skating level. Where you think that the game is just all about like fighting, right? Like, oh, she's gonna be a figure skater, so she's gonna be kicking people with her figure skates. No, the game is that you perform an actual figure skating routine, and the game is asking you to do this with the 2 buttons that you're allowed to press in the game. It's very, very simple. But the thing I liked most about Princess Peach Showtime is that aspect that they didn't just turn these different jobs into an action game, like the superhero Princess Peach, right? The one that's basically like a Sentai Power Rangers hero, right? You would think, oh, of course she's gonna be just punching and kicking bad guys throughout the whole thing, and she does do that. But like half the level is actually just her saving people, like making sure that the fire doesn't like hit people as they cross the street, or making sure that they're rescued from a bad guy that's chasing them around. So it's not just an action game. She's actually performing the roles that she's given to on stage, and that I think that's kind of like the most fascinating thing. What Steven says here too, his favorite character is the junior detective one. Shout out to that little man. I don't know what little man he's talking about, but the detective parts of Princess Peach are pretty cool because they're like a mini adventure game. They're like mini baby versions of Resident Evil, where you're getting this key and you're putting the key into this door, and then that's how you advance into the next room. So it's pretty simple, but some of the challenges are actually pretty hard. So it's very Kirby-like, as I mentioned in the last episode, where the levels are very, very easy to finish. You can easily get through the whole game, no problem. But if you want 100% everything, if you want to make sure that you get all those stars in each level, then it's going to take a little bit of effort. And then there are also levels that are called rehearsal levels, and those are basically challenge runs that are just a lot more difficult. But ultimately, there isn't much to the game. It's just kind of, there's 10 costumes and you unlock them all, and you finish the 4 or 5 levels of floors in the theater, and then it's pretty much done. So it is about as simple as you might expect, but it's a little bit more challenging, a little bit more deeper and interesting than you might expect too. So I gave the game 3 stars out of 4, which is basically 75. That's exactly the Metacritic. That's exactly the Metacritic score, I think, on it, and I think that's about right. I think it. And Steven, you're correct. I don't know if I worded quite as well as much as you did, but this is a great game for kids. I think it's very much like. It introduces a lot of different game genres. It could be Little Junior's first adventure game, and Princess Peach is doing that. This is their first beat 'em up game, their first figure skating game, their first cooking game. A lot of it kind of reminds you of like WarioWare too, in terms of how some of the games just kind of come and go. It's just a lot of mini games. If anything, it's a little bit like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. FF7 Rebirth is just like a
Whoa.
lot of mini games too, and
Yeah.
it's pretty much Peach Showtime too. But I enjoyed it, but again, I didn't get it on physical because I don't think it's one of my favorite Nintendo games of all time. Not even quite as good as Kirby. The next game is going to be really good, I think, because you don't really like level in Kirby Forgotten Land. You can actually level up the different powers that he gets, so he can get like the most powerful version of the sword, and you don't really do that here in Showtime. It's just a very flat power level. So it'll be really, really interesting to see them evolve this formula, because I think they hit it. I think this is a great formula for Peach to kind of evolve. And Luigi has his mansion formula, and now Peach has his Showtime formula.
Yeah, I wonder how and Whiff, because how they would evolve it, and will they do it? Just because sometimes Nintendo just has these one-off games, like the original.
Mm-hmm.
Super Princess Peach was just a one-off that they never did anything else with. But it's interesting to hear the possibility. Maybe it will. And the sales in Japan were very good. I don't know necessarily about here yet, but
number one in Japan over Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
yeah. So yeah, I wonder how they'll take it. And I think it's worth saying too that it really depends if you're an older gamer like we are. We're not a kid. That sometimes for some people an easy game will be appealing to just chill out. That's very rare for me, that I'm in the mood for a game like that. That just a game that's designed for kids is not necessarily going to appeal to me very often. Sometimes maybe something easy, but
I will say that it was tough for me to finish it because I was just not that engaged,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a game for kids, I think. So
wow. And Nintendo fans, like, how dare Nintendo not make a game for me?
I know, yeah, I know.
Ridiculous.
Finally, they actually made a real family game. This one can win the Family Game Award for Game Awards, and I'd be fine with it.
Yeah. So, Gene, you have 2 other games on here too.
I do.
Right?
I've
not Kingdom Hearts either one, so that's cool.
Sorry, dude. I still have Kingdom Hearts in my PlayStation. It's still there.
Nice.
It's still
okay,
installed. Good. I'm actually thinking about the pressure is working. The external pressure is working. You're not the only one. There's plenty of other people that are like, well, I see your Kingdom Hearts playthrough is going well. I see, and I'm distracted by like 10 other games. I actually have same with Micah. The New York trip really threw me off in terms of my schedule. Even DICE itself, I haven't really played much since finishing Rebirth. And, considering how much I've been hyping Dragon's Dogma 2, I actually haven't played that much of that either. I do plan on actually doing some actual real damage on the game this week. But in the meantime, I did crack open Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That's something that I did touch when it first launched in January. And I just really didn't get into it because Rebirth and everything else happened. But now I finally want to get into it. Shout out to me. Yesterday I had a story with Jordan Mechner, the creator of Prince of Persia. Go check it out. It's pinned on my Twitter. It's a story that really means a lot to me because it's Jordan Mechner and the creator of Prince of Persia. He is a guy who made the first video game I ever played, Karateka. When I first saw Karateka, I was just completely blown away. I was just like, what is this new entertainment format that's just not a TV show? I can actually interact with it. I need this, I need video games. And then I discovered Mario and Galaga and Pac-Man and all that stuff. But before all of that, it was Karateka. Karateka was the very first video game I ever saw. And so it was a real pleasure to meet Jordan Mechner. And so now I'm playing Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. And he actually worked on this one as well, too. Fantastic game, Metroidvania. It's a Metroidvania. It might be better than Metroid Dread. Who knows? I think I'm a quarter of the way through. I finally did some real damage, getting some powers. It is a Metroidvania. You see pathways that you can't access, but they're tantalizingly there, and there's power ups and stuff like out of the way. I'm excited to get to them. The combat is interesting. The parry, it has a parry window system. and that's actually quite engaging, and the parry window is pretty tight. Dustin, you played the Stellar Blade demo?
I have, but I didn't finish it. I should have just waited till I was done with Rebirth. I'm just going to restart it today.
Yeah. What you think about the parry, though? Did you try parrying in that game yet?
I felt like
it kind of felt like Liza P, honestly.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Gene.
Right? It kind of does. I feel like nobody really played Liza P enough to say that. But I mean, I'm interested in what Brad would think, because he's also a Liza P head too. But yeah, as I started blocking and parrying, I was like, the timing is really like Liza P, because Liza P was so tight too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was an upgrade that I did on the demo that gives you like a wider window for the parry. Mm-hmm. I think the problem is just that, and we talked about this with Liza P, is that my brain is wired for the Sekiro parry timing.
Yeah.
After playing, I've beaten that game 5 or 6 times now. And so it's very difficult for me to adjust to a slightly earlier parry time when you press. So it definitely was better after I did that upgrade, and I'll still play it and be able to get through it. It just doesn't feel quite like I want it to. And it's not of any fault of the game. It's me. Yeah.
I saw some people say, stop comparing every sword clashing game to Sekiro, and it's like, yeah, that's true that not every game is Sekiro, and Stellar Blade and Liza P aren't really like Sekiro. The reason why we always compare to Sekiro is because we train so fucking hard in Sekiro, like we really worked hard to be good at that game, and then so it feels like true mastery of a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so we're going to mention that because that's the thing that we did the most, It's kind of like talking about like martial arts, and it's like, like we had a constellation about martial arts, and it's like, oh, you're going to talk to me about martial arts, I'm going to remember Taekwondo, even though, any other martial art is going to be like Taekwondo, but that's the one that I trained in the most, So we trained really, really hard in Sekiro. So we're inevitably Sekiro is inevitably going to be brought up to mind anytime any kind of sword clashing thing happens from now on, because I think there is definitely a pre-Sekiro and post-Sekiro mindset. Would you agree? Right?
Yeah. Particularly just because, I mean, parrying in video games is, I feel like, kind of a lot of games have it. And for example, Rebirth has technically like a perfect parry mechanic. I never did it. I never did it because it's one of those things. It's like when you have gorged yourself on the very best with Sekiro's parry timing, and then you go to something else. It's like, eh.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to be parrying any other way, Right. Sekiro's was like the best back and forth, But this actually leads back into Prince of Persia, the original Prince of Persia. I love the original Prince of Persia and the way like it made the sword fights go like cling clang cling clang. I don't know if you guys remember that, but if you keep pressing up down attack all the time, it looks like that the sword fight is like you're actually clashing swords the whole time. I just love that. And Sekiro is like I feel like it's the first game in a long time to actually capture that feeling of like a real sword fight going back and forth, like so few games ever really do that. Even like in Final Fantasy VII, like when you're fighting Sephiroth, and this isn't a spoiler, surprise, you fight Sephiroth. But when you're fighting Sephiroth, it doesn't really feel like a real sword fight. You're just kind of hitting him and he's hitting you back,
Right.
Whereas in Sekiro, it's like a real back and forth, And so anytime any game does that, it's not as good as Sekiro. We're gonna talk about it. Anyways, all that to say is that Prince of Persia also has a really good combat system, I think. It's really, really satisfying, really good parry system. And like the combat system is actually kind of blowing up on me because there's a really good way where the prince just jumps off walls, so you can just keep jumping off a wall and just keep attacking. So like there's definitely some kind of aerial combat within Prince of Persia that I was a little surprised at. So Metroid games are a little bit rigid in terms of like how you can navigate them. Yeah, of course you can speedrun them and break sequence, but with Prince of Persia, like I feel like the combat is very fluid and lucid and I really enjoy it. So I'm really, really enjoying my time with it. I can't wait to finish more. Playing that, and also I'm continuing my Dragon Quest series on the Switch. I really wanted to check out Dragon Quest Builders. I don't know if you guys have heard of Dragon Quest Builders, but it is literally they looked at Minecraft and they said, "This is awesome. This is amazing that this came out in the West. What if we did what exactly what Dragon Quest did, and we just make it a little bit more accessible for the Japanese audience, right?" So they decided to actually just put a Dragon Quest story in Minecraft, and it's really interesting. Dragon Quest Builders asks, "What if?" So at the end of Dragon Quest One, spoilers for a game that came out in 1987 and is technically the very first JRPG of all time. At the very end of Dragon Quest One, you actually get a choice from the bad guy saying, "Would you join me or not?" And of course, you don't join him and you defeat the bad guy. And if you join him, then it's game over, right? Dragon Quest Builders asks, what if you did join him? And then what happens afterwards? So the story is that you're basically rebuilding the world of Dragon Quest 1. And it's cool. It's basically Minecraft with a story. I'm just wandering this world and just collecting objects and stuff like that. It's very, very rough. This is an old game on a Switch. So the quality of life issues are very prevalent. There's a lot of backtracking that I'm experiencing, and I'm not that far. I'm still fairly early. And a lot of people tell me that I should just go to Dragon Quest Builders 2, and that's the one with like all the quality of life stuff. It's the same way that a lot of people tell me that I should just skip ahead to Kingdom Hearts 2 because that's like the good game, But I'm really like Colin in this regard, where it's like, I need to earn my way towards Dragon Quest Builders 2. I need to earn my way towards Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm gonna be stubborn. I'm not gonna finish Octopath Traveler 2 until I finish Octopath Traveler 1. I still need to finish that one. I was almost done with that one too. So I still need to go back to that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play Dragon Quest Builders. I was a little disappointed because I felt like I was like, dude, Minecraft style Dragon Quest game, this is going to be great multiplayer co-op for Holly and I to play. But unfortunately, I think that 2 has multiplayer, but it's everything I'm seeing about it, it's like, yeah, it's not really ideal. So unfortunate. I'm surprised they haven't made a third one yet of that.
Yeah. Well, they just came out with Dragon Quest Builders 1 on PC. So I should really be playing that one because that one actually has all the quality of life updates from part 2 into part 1. So I should really be playing that one, but I'm stubborn and I feel like Dragon Quest should be on a Nintendo system. So that's why I'm playing it. And that's why it's frustrating that like other Dragon Quest games aren't on Nintendo. I'm actually really thinking about buying like a really, really expensive copy of Dragon Quest V for the Nintendo 3DS. But like a copy of that is $500 on Amazon.
So, ouch.
Yeah, so I'm definitely on the hunt for a cheaper price. So if anyone out there has a copy of Dragon Quest V that you wanna sell to me, let's talk.
Yeah, hit him up. Hit
me up, please.
Cool.
Yeah, that's about it.
Nice. So yeah, lots of games. I'm happy to be done with Rebirth. Not that I didn't enjoy it. That's what some people were confused on Discord, where they're like, "Oh, Dustin says he wants to be done and he won't say anything about the ending. He hated it." I'm like, no. By the end of a month of playing the same game, I want to play something new. It's like, kind
of. Yeah.
So right. I'm sad it's over and I want to play something new. It's hard to describe. So guys, let's get into some ending questions and comments here to round out our show. Neo JD writes in and says, "Gang, can you believe Miyamoto finally caught up to the Dagster and took him out? Gnarly. Now let's get on to the real topic at hand. What Nintendo game should Dustin start off LSM's first baby boy with? I'll throw my hat in the ring backwards for Pokemon. Perhaps Pokemon Let's Go, a remake of Gen 1 where Dustin can even help out if need be." So we mentioned this slightly earlier. I'm having a kid. I don't know. We didn't mention it directly on this show, but I announced it online and it's part of the live show. And we talked about it on Sacred. But yes, I'm having a little baby boy. And I like this question. Not that I'm going to frame I'm not going to be like the dad guy. That's one thing that I've thought about is like, okay, I'm not going to be the guy that frames every question around his kid down.
I think it's okay. That. I think it's okay that you're the dad guy, though.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know. I think this is something that we should get feedback from the listeners. But I mean, there's a lot of dads out there, so I think I think having a dad in the family, in the LSM family, is going to help diversify and and help people feel connected to us too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now that Dagan's not here, we got to have a little dad energy on a.
And also, and also, you could be the sad dad of Sacred Symbols, right? Of the PlayStation podcast, right?
Yeah, sad dad.
You need a sad dad in a PlayStation podcast, so that's you, baby.
I'm ready to go. Yeah. So Neo JD, he's asking about what games first for a little baby boy. I've thought about this for a while, but I'm curious. I want to ask you guys first, Micah. If let's say maybe there's a little Moriarty someday, maybe it's a little cousin, whatever. How do you like train a kid up on games? And it's funny, it sounds like a silly question, but it is something I've legitimately thought about quite a bit. Is like you want your kids to like what you like. How do you start them off right?
Oh, I mean, if I'm talking Switch games, it's going to be one of the Yoshi's Crafted World. Who wouldn't love that? Who the fuck wouldn't love that? Okay. I'm going Yoshi and Kirby. They're appropriate. They're fun. That would be my default of like what I would probably try and get a kid into first. Like there's nothing scary about either of those. But also, I mean, simplistic things like Mario Kart. One of those games that's easy to play, hard to master type deal of your kid will have fun just driving around. And I always remember the mini games, the one where you're trying to like pop the balloons on other people's carts, whatever. There's enough there that, I mean, Nintendo would be hands down where I would start any child I might have, because it's just so many appropriate options that would still be very fun for the parent to play as well. But Dustin, for your child, as if it wouldn't be Earthbound. I know your wife.
Earthbound.
As if it wouldn't. You're going to have just a 6-month-old just like watching Earthbound. I know it. I can feel it in my bones.
I'm not opposed to that. I think it might be a little tough, especially if they can't read. But
they'll figure it out. They
can learn to read from Earthbound, and then they talk. They're like, "Man, what's wrong with this guy?" It's like, "Oh, he learned to read and talk from Earthbound." But Gene, what do you think as far as raising a child in the ways of gaming?
I feel like Colin was talking about this before, and I actually agree with him. I would want to put my kid through the same rigor as I went through. You're going to start with Karateka, and then you're gonna start with Mario 1, the original one. You're gonna learn some skills, boy. But otherwise on the Switch, though, I would first of all, JD has a great suggestion. Pokemon Let's Go. I think that's fantastic. That's a great way to just introduce Gen 1 and also just spoil them on the graphics of today. But Kirby also, I feel like any Kirby game would be perfect too. Even the first Kirby game, which is thankfully available on the Switch Online too. I feel like Kirby and Animal Crossing would also be a great one too together. I feel like Animal Crossing would be great. Just to play house, especially if it's especially if there's a family.
Yeah.
And my wife hasn't left me at that time, so.
I like that in your hypothetical situation of having a family, you've already accounted for the fact of a wife
that I'll definitely be divorced. Yeah, for sure.
My main thing about my child with gaming is that when I see a lot of kids these days, I always hate that so many of the games that they talk about really liking are like mobile games, Five Nights at Freddy's, Roblox. And I don't want to diminish and be like, no, you can't like those games, or so, you can't constrict a kid like that. I just, the main thing, and maybe I'm thinking about this way too much, is that I want my kid to understand and appreciate traditional video games like a Zelda, a Mario game, and not just, oh, did you play this most recent fad game that has jump scares on the the App Store. Or that's the even thing, man. Kids with phones and iPads, the iPad kid territory, that is like, simply for me, it's going to be about, okay, here's a game that has a start and a finish, and there's an adventure or something, a plot, whatever. Not that just that, but as I see more and more kids, and I don't know, this sounds so offensive, but not play real video games, like a real game.
A real game like Nikkei got us a victory.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So just like being like, yeah, here's Pokemon, Mario, or even like, it doesn't have to be just Nintendo, but not just leaning on those like quick dopamine hit games that kids are like obsessed with. Just because, and not all kids, I should say, because I do have kids in my family that are like very much into Zelda and Mario and stuff like that. And there's other kids that they just don't care about those things because it's not something that they were really into. So that's going to be the main thing. Pokemon Let's Go, that's a great suggestion, though, just because some of those older, Pokemon Yellow, of course, that was my stomping ground back in 2000, but it's a little dated at this point. So Pokemon Let's Go sounds good.
Didn't they redid Pokemon Snap, right? The one where you take pictures of them?
Yeah, they did a sequel.
They did a
yeah,
new
what
version.
kid wouldn't love that? I mean, like, that's an easy peasy one, right? It's like you're taking them to the zoo without having to take them to the zoo.
I haven't even played that one, actually, too. I haven't really finished that one. I should play it. The good, thanks for the reminder. I completely forgot that existed.
We're just putting Kingdom Hearts further and further.
Keep pushing it down. That's fine.
That's
a game.
Never going to play Kingdom Hearts.
When Pokemon Snap...
If they just came out with a fucking Kingdom Hearts that was like not Cloud on the Switch, I would play it,
That's true. Dude.
Or Kingdom Hearts just feels like a really good like mobile, like a game to play on a handheld. So, and it really fucking sucks that Kingdom Hearts is like stuck on the Epic Store, and I can't just I'm not gonna get the Epic Games launcher for my Steam Deck. That's the thing, I'm just not gonna do that.
And even then, there's you have to like mess with it to make it work right.
Yeah.
On Steam Deck, it's so annoying.
I don't want to deal with it. I fucking hate launchers. The Steam Deck has made me hate other PC launchers. Like I thought about playing like Mass Effect. I was like, oh yeah, Mass Effect would be so great on the Steam Deck. Oh wait, it's gonna open a fucking EA launcher just so I can log into fucking Mass Effect. It's
gross.
Pathetic. I hate it.
Yeah.
So I'm playing BioShock instead on Steam Deck.
Nice, dude. I was thinking about BioShock. We've been talking about it on Sacred.
Exactly, because of Judas and everything. The whole Judas hype. And I was like, and everyone keeps talking shit about BioShock. I'm like, BioShock was pretty good though. So I'm playing it now, and I'm just like, it's a good game. And it's 60 FPS on a Steam Deck. God, looks great.
No, BioShock is excellent, but just skip the audio diaries. You don't need to listen to any of those. Just ignore all of them.
So was the audio diaries where Dagan said that he didn't listen to any of the audio diaries in BioShock? Was that a knockback episode?
It was, and much to Colin's disappointment, I was like, yeah, that's how I played it too. Like, you click on it, and then I would you click on the audio diary just to get it out of the way, but then I would just go do whatever else I was doing. And I barely, because he was like, what is the story of BioShock? It's like, you think I remember? All right. They parsed it all out in all those little diaries. Like, I don't remember what it was about. They should have just told me the story. I don't like having to find things. It's like, I had a lot of fun with it though. Fantastic gameplay. Really enjoyable. What was going on? I have no fucking clue.
That's crazy.
But I liked it a lot.
But to your point, the audio diaries are annoying to pick up after a while though. So.
Yeah, there's like maybe just a little bit too many of them.
It's ultra reliant on like that's the only storytelling method that game had, which is annoying. So
yeah.
Let's
go to Jacob I, who says, hello, Punching Up crew. Have you ever returned to a game years later only to develop an even stronger appreciation? Recently, I've been playing through Breath of the Wild in the first time in almost 6 years. While I thoroughly enjoyed the game at launch, I'm finding myself enraptured in the setting, meandering around the wilderness at an almost meditative pace. Nintendo's ability to balance fun and intuitive gameplay with a somber, post-apocalyptic Hyrule demonstrates just how deeply they understand video games as an artistic medium. Thank you for the wonderful show, and I wish Dagan well in his new opportunities. Jacob. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty cool question, just because I wish there was more time to go back to old games, because I 99% of the time when I do, I love being able to view them from a new lens. And it's crazy how, not just from an intellectual standpoint where it's like, okay, I last played this when I was 8 years old. I'm 30 now, so I understand games on a much deeper level, but also games just from an emotional level and where you're at in life can have a total different feeling when you play them later. So, Mike, is there any games that fall into this category for you?
Yeah, I don't tend to replay games very often because of the time aspect, and playing a lot of like JRPGs are just inherently long games. I don't often go back to them. But what the first one that came to mind was The Last of Us, just
Mm.
because I am such a scaredy cat. But that's a game that, despite how scared I was, I forced myself to finish it because the story was so good. And it's a game I've replayed several times since then.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter how scared I am of it, I still play it through every single time because the story is just that good that I overcome my fear of, all the clickers and everything to say, like, I just want to get through to the end of the game. The other one that came up for me, though, was Witcher 3, which I loved it when it came out. I got to the game a little bit late, and so I picked it up. It was like the Game Awards sale. Like the game won something, and then like it was on a big discount. I tried it out, adored it, and then playing it through a second time, and I was like, now I really understand it, and like I was getting just so into the story and just all the mechanics. And then I started a third playthrough that I got about halfway through, and then I moved and I didn't finish it. But that's a game that the more I played it, the more I loved it. Ended up reading most of the books in the series, went back and played Witcher 2 because I just had to experience that as well. Like,
Mm.
that is a game that the more I played it, the more I loved it. And I keep hoping they'll do a remake of Witcher 1. I know it was a rumor at one point. I
No,
keep hoping for that only
they're
because
making it. They're making it.
I'd like to believe
No,
that,
they
but
are
it's
making it.
been
It
I
was it was
don't trust
no, it was in
anyone,
CD. No,
Gene.
no, it was in CDPR's presentation yesterday. They're
Yeah,
making.
but
They're making.
Xbox showed me Scalebound for like 10 years and
Well,
that
yeah.
never even came out. So I just want it because Witcher 2 is still pretty accessible, right? I have my 360 disc. I popped it into my Xbox, like my current Xbox. I could
Oh,
play
you
it.
played the
And
Xbox
it worked just
version.
fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's what I played. And that's just what I want for the first game, is to be able to just play it easily as someone who doesn't play on PC, because that's the only place the first one exists. Um, and I just hear it's pretty rough around the edges. I would
It's a
believe
bad
that,
game.
having played the second
It's a
one.
bad game.
So
It's a bad game. It's
and
not.
because the second one is really good, but man, is it old. Like,
Yeah.
I did a whole video about it on my channel back when I played it, and it's fantastic story. The gameplay is decent, but you really appreciate Witcher 3, especially after playing that,
Mm-hmm.
because holy moly, they just made that game so much better to play.
Mm-hmm.
But those would be my two that immediately come to mind of games I appreciated much more on the subsequent playthroughs, and that I just loved them even more.
Gene, what about you?
This is a great question. I would say Dragon Quest XI, but I've been talking about that game a lot, and people know my feelings about Dragon Quest XI. But definitely, I left it and I came back to it, and I realized, oh, this really was one of the best RPGs ever made. But another answer, and this one might be a little surprising, is Returnal.
Oh.
Returnal is a game that came out in the PS5 and it was exclusive, and I played it, and I was like, it's okay, it's good. It controls really well, and it's really hard, and I didn't like how difficult it was, and I didn't like the story, right? And then I played it some more. I played it like maybe a year later, and it just really clicked with me. One, I think I was actually willing to learn how to play the game and actually, like, quote unquote, get good at it. But two, I really started to understand the roots of Housemarque and where they came from, and what they were trying to achieve with that game. I think they really were trying to do a modern 3D version of Space Invaders and Galaga, and like the shoot 'em up games that they've always been really, really good at. And so I see Returnal as basically like like a descendant of like games like Asteroids and Space Invaders and the classic arcade games that I used to play. So now that I look at Returnal in that way, I'm like, I think Returnal might actually be the best game on PlayStation 5. And I know Chris Reagan has said that too, and I completely agree with him. Actually, I think Returnal is so good, and I think the story actually does is still probably the weakest part. I actually wish that the game had no story at all. Um, I wish it didn't have any kind of ties to, and then like she's back and she's alive again, and like look at all the dead bodies. Like no, I and like all that is great that it's barely there, and that's again part of why I love Returnal so much is because it doesn't really mind the story so much, and I feel like it will be even better with less story. But ultimately, I did come to kind of appreciate Returnal for kind of almost being completely brilliant, and so Returnal I think is tied for me with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart as like basically my favorite PS5 game right now.
Yeah,
Demon Souls obviously, but Demon Souls doesn't count because that's a PS3 game. So
right, yeah, that remake is very good though.
I mean, it's an incredible remake, and like the remake itself as a product, Demon Souls like justified the cost of a PS5 for me. I would pay $500 to play that version of Demon Souls, no problem. Everything else has been a bonus, including Returnal, including Ratchet and Clank, which are better games. But
yeah. My choice is last year replaying Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, but particularly 1 and 2. Playing those, I mean, there's so many different angles that it was crazy now. I mean, from a technical perspective, how cinematic Metal Gear Solid 1 is as a game. As a kid, I understood that, but I didn't really get the impact, especially now as an adult with the full context. Of course, the story of Metal Gear Solid 2, how prophetic it was, is shocking. And playing through those games again, and I'm so excited to eventually replay Metal Gear Solid 5 again, because those games are fucking awesome. At least that's how I remember them. I know there's some people that don't like them because of the story, but the gameplay on them, I probably would say they're the best gameplay of Metal Gear.
It's peak, yeah.
It's peak, yeah.
I just played 5 a couple months ago. I had the best time. It's incredible,
Yeah, I hope they do a nice.
It's a great Steam Deck game for sure too.
Yeah, so. I hope they do a nice PS5 version of it for whatever the Master Collection Volume 2 or whatever. So, guys, let's end off not the show with a question, but just a nice little sweet comment. There's so many downers, and so I just thought this was nice. I'm not helping my dad energy defense here with this one, but this was just too cute to not read. This comes from King Kulaks, who says, "What's up, Box Busters? Ooh, I just want to write in because my 2.5-year-old daughter is absolutely obsessed with Mario. Toddler is absolutely obsessed with Mario. He watched the recent movie and was instantly drawn to the character. It's now his favorite movie. He gets excited every time he sees Mario in anything, and even recognizes the spelling for Mario. We recently got him a stuffed Mario plush, and he now goes everywhere with him. My wife even has to give his Mario plush a high five. And Nux, is that a Nux? I've never heard of that. Whatever for bedtime the other day because my son
maybe it's like dabbing like the Dexerto. Did you guys see the Dexerto post?
No, I didn't.
They showed the two Dragon's Dogma characters doing a high five or whatever, but then Dexerto called it dabbing.
Dabbing, yeah,
dabbing instead of dapping. Is dapping.
Yeah.
This is why DEI is important, guys.
Yeah,
because that it wasn't a black guy that wrote that Dexerto post.
Right. So yeah,
anyways, I think maybe it's a dap. Maybe that's what you're talking about.
Maybe yes, the Nux. I don't know. I've never heard Nux, but before bedtime the other day, because my son insisted upon it. As his father, I obviously find it adorable, but really dawned on me how timeless the Mario IP really is, because we didn't force any of this on him. We just watched the movie on a whim one Friday evening. The fact that all these decades later, my toddler is just completely enamored with this character is really a testament to the genius of Miyamoto and the magic he delivered to the world. Mario truly is one of those special pieces of gaming and media that transcends generations. Anyway, just thought I'd share because I find it fascinating, and seeing how my son has reacted to Mario really made me appreciate the IP and Miyamoto in a way I hadn't before. Take care, y'all. So yeah, a nice little cute story here about the power of Mario. And I think what's cool about this is that Miyamoto, I think what's genius about it is he wasn't designing. It wasn't like boardroom Disney. Who's going to be the next character we design for kids to be obsessed with? He just made, I mean, he didn't really, I don't want to say he had no thought, but he started as this Donkey Kong character for the arcade and then evolved into something. And he kind of became this iconic character. And I think it's cool that way. Obviously, there's a lot of iconic characters that maybe were designed in a boardroom or very methodical to be something big. But
Sonic
Mario's charm is in his quaintness, I would say.
Sonic the Hedgehog is definitely a boardroom character. I mean, like
absolutely.
To be fair, Sonic the Hedgehog is like the premier boardroom character. You know, like he's like the best character a boardroom has ever produced, probably. You know.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably fair. So, guys, I want to make sure, Gene, you got a hard out in a few here. So let's go ahead and let's wrap things up here. Another episode of Punching Up in the books as a trio. But let's say goodbye to the crew and the listeners until next time. So, Micah, goodbye to you. Thanks for hanging out.
Oh, thank you. Bringing up hedgehogs real quick. Did you guys see the news story of the lady who found like a faux fur pom-pom off the top of a hat and she thought it was a hedgehog and she like brought it to like an animal rescue, but she kept it overnight like in a cardboard box. She put out a little dish of cat food for it. And like the picture is just so sweet because it's this faux fur like ball next to a little dish of cat food. And it's like woman tried to rescue hedgehog, turns out to be a pom-pom for a hat.
Oh, I found it.
Oh my god, it was the cutest story, very wholesome and sweet, but I can't think about hedgehogs now without thinking about this lady.
This is the first thing I was searching, like pom-pom hedgehog.
Because I think it is so just the cutest thing. She has it in a cardboard box on top of a newspaper, like you would with some sort of animal, with a little dish of food.
And she's
like,
old too.
It's so sweet. Like, it's genuinely so sweet.
Yeah. Well, hey, we need more people like that, even if it is silly, to take the care, even if it's a pom-pom.
She should have given it a chili dog. Everyone knows a hedgehog's favorite food is a chili dog. So that's where she messed up.
Dude, G Fuel did the chili dog flavored G Fuel with Sonic. So,
like not just an April Fool's. This is real.
I'm pretty sure they did it. The chili dog G Fuel. Micah, I had to ask you, how do you feel about this hot dog water seltzer coming out? Have you heard of this?
Oh, I did. I mean, I love hot dogs. I write fake holidays on our calendar just to spice it up. And so coming up in 2 weeks is National Hot Dog Week, according to my calendar. I love hot dogs. Like, one of the first things I said to Chris at the live show was, you have any hot dogs lately? It's just like, but this sounds terrible. Like I have a thing about flavors I like in the wrong format, such as, have you seen like the mac and cheese candy canes? Like, that sounds, I love mac and cheese, but the idea of like sucking on a cheese flavored stick sounds terrible.
Goodness.
Like, it's the wrong format. It is the wrong format for the flavor. So a hot dog seltzer, very funny.
Yeah.
But God, no, I could never.
I consider hot dog, juice, water, whatever you want to call it, like enemy number one, really. I hate it when I have to cook hot dogs and I have to touch it because it smells so strong. Like, I have to wash my hands. Enough with the hot dog water. Ban it.
I did think of you, Dustin. I'm sorry. I one more story. I did think of you the other day. We had hot dogs when we came back from the live show that Monday, and I shook the ketchup, but not hard enough, and so I pour it onto my hot dog, and it's a whole bunch of like the ketchup water just splat right onto the hot dog. But you know what we do in times like that? We just soldier on.
So yeah.
What else can you do?
What can you do, really? Other than that,
what can I do? It's already happened.
You got to live with what happened. But yeah, thank you for thinking of me, even though it was in an unfortunate context. I appreciate it nonetheless. Gene, thanks for hanging out today. Goodbye to you.
Yeah, thanks for that last letter from King Kulak too. It's very heartwarming. It reminds me of my best buddy. He has a kid now too, and that kid is about 3 or 4 years old, I think, or around the same age as King Kulak. And that kid, who's my godson, loves Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Has been watching my buddy play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. He beat the game too. So this was one of the guys that I actually played Final Fantasy VII with, like originally, the first one. So this was a big moment for both of us. It's a big moment for him too, for him to actually see his kid fall in love with Final Fantasy VII. He loves Cloud. He thinks Cloud is the coolest guy, just the coolest guy who does everything cool. And Aerith is his second favorite character, and I think that's just so fantastic to just have a little man just really really love Final Fantasy VII. So it's kind of cool. So that's why I'm thinking, like, I think the dad stuff is gonna work out for you, Dustin. I think if your kid's good, what if your kid's a little shit? Then that could be a problem. So
well. Someone wrote this as a comment, but I've thought it before, is like his rebellious phase is going to be, into sports or something like that,
Exactly. And yeah. You could be raising a complete douchebag from here on out. So who knows? But we'll find out. We'll raise them together.
Yeah, we can, a little Last Stand family.
We'll raise that little shithead together. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Punching Up. Of course, I think I missed it because we were talking about Dagan at the early part of the episode. You get early access at patreon.com/laststandmedia and right into the show. We'd love to hear from you guys. And it means a lot. So thank you guys, of course, for listening. Whether you're on Patreon or free feeds, all of it means so much to us. We appreciate you. And if you join the episode, make sure to leave a comment, like all that stuff. It really helps us out. And we like hearing from you guys. So that's it. We'll be back soon. Until next time, goodbye. Punching Up, a Nintendo podcast, is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and produced by me, Dustin Furman. My co-hosts are Gene Park, Dagan Moriarty, and Micah Watson. The show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Punching Up, along with the rest of Last Stand Media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your kind contributions and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.